In the beginning of 2009, I got online and I started looking around to see what I could find on myself on the internet. And in the process, I started running into lots of other one-man bands. The idea of writing a book occurred to me. So I thought, what a great idea to make a book about one-man bands. Nobody's ever done it before. A little bit of a niche, but an interesting subject for sure. So many different ways to present yourself as a one-man band. So I started researching and gathering photos and writing entries, and I was shocked at how many one-man bands there were. I had expected maybe 100 or a couple hundred, but by the time I finished writing, I had over 900 one-man bands. A fellow named Ray Stubbs, who's a phenomenal one-man band in England, he came up with the phrase head, hands, and feet, which I used as the title for the book. Of course, that references the fact that all the one-man bands in the book basically do the instruments manually. It's not what we call bedroom bands. I've done the bedroom band thing too as well. Basically, a bedroom band is somebody who overdubs all the instruments themselves. Todd Rundgren, many people have done that, Stevie Wonder. But they're not the kind of one-man bands that we're dealing with in this book. The book is basically people that do things manually. I did include a few people that use looping pedals and things like that. But generally speaking, it's the manual one-man bands, people that play things with head, hands, and feet. As can be seen, the book is heavily filled with pictures. I counted them up. There's over 1,200 pictures in the book. I want to thank all the people that supplied pictures and pictures of others. Some people were very, very helpful in that regard. And that's what makes the book a success in my mind, is the use of all the pictures. There's a glossary of terms that helps to show some of the different instruments and some of the terminology that's used in the book. In the process of my research, I was shocked to discover a fellow named Albert Nelson. There was an interesting book about Albert Nelson and his life, so I was actually able to gather quite a bit of information about him. And he had an enormous contraption of an instrument that he played himself using air pressure to operate a lot of the instruments, the Nelsonian. Daddy Stovepipe, there's another fellow I was already familiar with. Blues, vaudeville kind of a style, very, very early. He was born in 1867. Jesse Fuller is probably the biggest name in the one-man band world. His creation of the Fotdella sets him apart from quite a few others. He was recorded quite extensively in the latter part of his life. Again, born in the 1800s, 1896, I believe. So he was not a young man when he was discovered in the 50s. But he was a big part of the folk boom. And in the book, I was lucky enough to be able to include a whole collection of fabulous photos, courtesy of Mary Catherine Alden. Joe Hill Lewis, a great Memphis area one-man band, very good at playing harmonica and lead guitar at the same time, and simple bass drum hi-hat accompaniment, which is what most of the blues-oriented one-man bands used in the earlier days, bass drum and hi-hat. Dr. Ross is another very well-known name in the world of one-man bands. Another Memphis area one-man band from the Mississippi, just south of Memphis. And a great harmonica player and interesting guitar player, somewhat influenced by John Lee Hooker. Used open tuning, open G tuning a lot. There's some good film of him as well. Also Juke Boy Bonner from Houston, Texas area. More of a foot stomper, really didn't use full drums with his feet as much as some of the others, but played great harmonica a la Jimmy Reed, and solid guitar as well. I mentioned people like Jimmy Reed in the rack harp category, Bob Dylan, famous names that have influenced a lot of one-man bands. Another one-man band who was influenced by Jimmy Reed was Blind Joe Hill. Flying Joe Hill was a fairly obscure but excellent Jimmy Reed influenced one-man band based out of the Southern California area, Los Angeles area. Moving forward a little bit, we've got Jessie Mae Hemphill, who's kind of got her start in the 70s. One of the first female one-woman bands that I found. There may have been earlier ones, but she's the first that I can really come up with. There aren't as many women in the book as men. It does seem to be a male-dominated field. Being a solo woman performer takes a bit of guts, especially oftentimes one-man bands have to perform in rowdy bars or on street corners. Hasil Adkins is another very famous one-man band. Well, fame in the field of one-man banding is a relative thing, but in the relative field, though, Hasil Adkins is widely renowned as an influential one-man band on the modern scene. But he was basically kind of a country rockabilly musician, played excellent foot drums and guitar and the odd little bit of harmonica here and there, but mostly guitar and drums, and wrote very unusual songs and had a hard-driving rockabilly kind of a style. Heavily influenced by country music, so I always find it's kind of surprising that he's been so influential on the modern punk scene, but he has. Again, his lyrics were unusual. Songs like She Said and No More Hot Dogs. Very unusual subjects. A lot of songs about chickens, too. Another interesting earlier one-man band is a fellow named Abner Jay. Abner Jay is what we call outsider. I call Hasil Adkins outsider too. Outsider just meaning do-it-yourself, off the beaten path, which a lot of one-man bands fall into the category of outsider. But Abner Jay played six-string banjo and foot drums and mostly straight harmonica, straight key harmonica, using harmonica in the key of the music, not cross harp like used in blues. His music had a strong soul influence and a bit of country flavor, and he wrote quite a lot of topical songs about political things and kids, the youth of the day, and we're talking the 60s here. I'm So Depressed is my favorite Abner Jay song. Another great early one-man band was a fellow named Joe Barrick. Joe Barrick played a bass and a guitar with his feet in a specially mounted unit, and he played a double-neck guitar and mandolin with his hands, and also drums. Very, very, very full-sounding one-man band. Strangely, a lot of the people that played the foot-operated guitars didn't know of each other. Another fellow I forgot was Fate Norris, another early. He was in the 20s, playing foot-operated guitar and bass with his feet. Well, he played fiddle and harmonica. There's been a few artists playing guitars with their feet. One of my favorites, and somebody I discovered early on when I started research on the book, was Greeley Robertson. Greeley Robertson was an old-style country musician, played old-style country, guitar with his feet, guitar with his hands, fiddle with his hands. He had a fiddle set up right in front of him on a stand. He just had to move his hands and grab the bow and he was away. Lap steel, a little table in front of him, mandolin off to the side, banjo off to the side. So he had about 15 instruments going at once, various foot percussion as well. While he did the guitar with his feet, he played the drums with his heels. Duster Bennett is probably the most famous in North America, the best known one-man band from England. Duster Bennett played the traditional sit-down bass drum, hi-hat, harp rack, guitar, and great blues singer and player in the 60s, and unfortunately was killed in a motor accident in the mid-70s. Probably never really got his due in his lifetime, but he's certainly well known now. Was good friends with Fleetwood Mac, which probably didn't hurt his popularity. Robert One Man Johnson. Robert One Man Johnson also followed in the footsteps of Jessie Fuller, in fact, put on a show with Jessie Fuller in the 60s, which he wrote about for me, and that's in the book. Robert One Man Johnson has his own small Fotdella. It's amplified, so it doesn't have to be big, because it's not loud acoustically, but it's amplified. And he plays kind of a folk blues style, I'd call it, blues based. Ray Stubbs, great British one-man band. I had been given a CD of his many years earlier, and I'd always enjoyed that. He was a bit of an influence for me. And he came up with the phrase head, hands, and feet, which I used as the title for the book.
I just bought my ticket, I got my load. Conductor hollered, all aboard. Take my seat, railway back, and watch this train